Christmas time of 1944, my sister was 9 years old, and I was 5. And she spent the Christmas holidays in bed with red measles. Following Christmas holiday, my mother thought that she would be able to go back to school, but she kept running a low-grade fever. Our local doctor, who made house calls, would come periodically and check on her. After about a month, he became concerned that his medication was not doing what it should have been doing. And he was concerned that she had something that he didn't have anything that could take care of it. So he suggested that she go to the University of Virginia and have tests taken to find out exactly what the problem was, which they did in the whole month of January into February. And it showed that my sister had a disease called bacterial endocarditis. It was a bacteria of the lining of the heart. And as it worked on the heart, the lining would slough off in these scabs, and eventually you would die. So when Dr. Birdsong took my mother for consultation to tell her that the diagnosis had been found, and he told her what it was, he was in a kind of a relaxed position in his chair and reared back just a little bit. And when he told her what the disease was, she was familiar with it because 2 of our cousins in the family had died of that same disease within a very short time. And she knew that it was a fatal disease. And yet her reaction and her answer to Dr. Birdsong was, "Now what do we do?" And he sat up straight with his feet on the floor, and he looked at her and he said, "Do you realize what I am telling you?" And she said, "Yes. You are telling me that my child has a fatal disease as a doctor. I am telling you as a mother that there must be something that we can do, and I am prepared to do whatever it takes." He reached over on his desk and pulled out the newest American Medical magazine. The magazine had in it information about a new experimental drug that had just become available, and it was to combat bacteria. And my mother said, "If that's what we have to work with, let's start the drug." And he said, "We don't have it here. It's not available at the University of Virginia." She said, "Where can I get it?" And he said, "It's only available in the VA hospitals for the soldiers who are coming back from the battlefields of France and Germany. And the only other place that is available is Philadelphia Children's Lying-In Hospital." And that was very close to where my mother grew up and where my mother's family was at the time. So she said, "I'm taking my child back home." So the next few days, arrangements were made. She became a patient of the cardiac facilities at Pennsylvania Hospital, and the head doctor at this cardiac facility was Dr. Stokes. And he would come in the mornings with an entourage of medical students behind him, because this was a learning hospital, and very intimidating character. But Mother remembered that name, Dr. Stokes. And the second day she looked at him and she said, "Do you by any chance remember of Dr. Stokes that was a family practitioner in the Merchantville, New Jersey area?" And he said, "That was my father." And she said, "Well, he was my childhood doctor." So from then on, they became very congenial to each other, and he took on a special interest on this case. They didn't know exactly how to administer this drug. It was so new and in the experimental stages. They decided to use a drip. So they would put it in her arm, and instead of just giving her a shot, it would stay in her arm. And when that vein in that arm collapsed, they would change it to the other arm. So she was immobile for quite some time. And at the end of about 2 weeks, Dr. Stokes saw an improvement. They kept taking blood samples, and they saw less and less of the bacteria. Until finally, one day, there was a message from my mother after she came in that she was to go by Dr. Stokes' office for consultation. And she did before she went up to see my sister. He gave her the news that the medicine was working, and they had every expectation that she would not have a recurrence of the disease. Well, sometimes it takes a while for good news to sink in, just like it would take a while for bad news to sink in. So she got up from his office, heading toward her daughter's room. And as she opened the door to her daughter's room, she heard a little voice on the other side singing, "Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way." Well, she closed the door quietly, headed for the first restroom, and collapsed in sobs of relief. Penicillin had cured her child.